Hello, everyone. Welcome. Happy Tuesday. Hope you guys are having an amazing night. Welcome to another episode of Sirdork Live. It's a toy artist interview episode. I got a really great guy here with me to talk about some stuff, some toy photography, and a lot of other really cool things too that I'm completely unfamiliar with. So I'm excited to talk about that with him. And I see Ben is here in the chat. I see Mike Manzel is here. No Chewing is here. Toy Stories, Halo Animations, Imperial Propaganda. Thanks so much for being here, you guys. And Comic Dad, you guys are awesome. Thank you so much for tuning in. It's Tuesday, but it's a good day. So, all right, I got the guy right here waiting for me. And here he is. Corey, how you doing, man?
Hello. Pretty good. Yourself?
I'm also doing well. It's been a pretty good day so far. I don't know. Tell us a little bit about Corey, and then tell us a little bit about Stegosaurus Rex.
Sure. Well, I am primarily a technical artist. It's kind of a mix between a programmer and an artist. I work on video games. Specifically, I work on NBA 2K, a basketball game that comes out each year. So we got a pretty busy schedule usually. Before that, I was working at the animatronics group at Disney, so making setting up the robots for the parks to do their animations and things. And before that was in video games at Disney and stuff. So it's kind of a lot of different things that are not necessarily directly related to toy photography, but touch on some of that. Some of the CG animation and things, the lighting in CG has a lot of kind of parallels to what we do in toy photography. So it was a fun fit getting into it based on what I do day to day, and a fun hobby.
That's so cool. I knew that you had a background in like graphics and CG and stuff like that, but I didn't know like you worked on video games. And so tell me more about what you do on like NBA 2K, whatever. Tell me about what you do on that. That's that's so cool.
On NBA specifically, it's a lot of programming. So a technical artist does kind of a mix of both things. If you're vaguely familiar with games and stuff, you understand that you can have a 3D model of something, but then it needs to move. So you'll have a technical artist rig that character. They'll put the bones inside, tell the joints how to move and things. And that used to be a big part of my job as a technical artist, but not so much at this one because everything's so automated. It really has changed depending on job to job, what I do at the job, if it's more art heavy or programming heavy. And in this particular case, everything is so automated with the thousands of players that I don't do a whole lot of the rigging side of technical art, mainly building tools and things. Sometimes I'll do rigs for their hair if they got something special going on and stuff. But as far as the programming side of things, it's building out tools for our 3D software using a language called Python, and setting up our databases and things to keep everything organized. So it's kind of an interesting mix day to day of art and programming that I do.
That's so cool. I feel like I have so many questions about that, and I also want to just quick say too, like, thanks everyone in the chat for helping me fix the audio. Everything seems to be good now. And hello everyone. Hey Siva, and Lawrence is here. Emerald Night Photos. Thank you guys so much for being in here. So how did you? I don't know. I feel like a lot of these questions are going to be like super elementary because I'll.
Well, it's completely out of context. I fully understand that.
It is. And so, okay, so how did you get into? First of all, how did you get into like video game art? I don't know. You said the term already, and it's already escaping me.
Technical art is the job. Yep.
Technical art.
I originally wanted to be an animator, and that's kind of related to it. And I'm actually kind of a generalist, so I do all aspects of it. So I have done animation in the past. I would never have a job doing just animation specifically because I'm not a great animator, but that's what I originally went to school for. And then I kind of just moved into this skill set from there. It was they were more in demand. I was more interested in it, and it kind of turned out to be the decision once I learned more about CG that it was a good mix of the two types of disciplines, and well sought after. So I went with that as a career, and I've been doing that for 14 years now. Yeah, as a professional. And then I started way back in high school doing just generalist, hobby stuff. A lot of Photoshop and Maya, if anybody's familiar with the 3D programs. I had like a cracked version of Maya back in the day and was like making silly animations and things.
In the chat, Trents5 says, "What 3D package do you use?"
Maya and ZBrush. So Maya would be the program that I would do animation, lighting, sometimes effects and things, and then ZBrush is the sculpting program. It's kind of like sculpting in clay, and I'm sure ZBrush will come up more during this as we talk about some of my custom toys and things that I do photography of. And so
Cool.
it's kind of like sculpting in clay, and then you can take that and either, it has a lot of uses. You could go into a 3D program to optimize it and then turn it into a video game character, or you can use it to 3D print things. It's very versatile.
So cool. This is so awesome. And Brick something in the chat says, "Sweet. So EA now, but Imagineering in the past." So yeah, tell us a little bit about the stuff you did in Disney.
Yeah, so I started in the games division about 12 years ago or so, and it kept getting shifted around. A lot of, these companies within Disney are like separate entities themselves. So I was at Disney Online. It became Disney Interactive, which changed names like 4 more times, and then got put under Disney Consumer Products, which technically became Imagineering for about a year, and then he took them out. And then after maybe 8 years or so at Disney, I finally actually got over to Imagineering. And I can't talk much about it, but I made rigs for animatronics, and I also programmed tools for the team. And some things, most of the stuff I worked on hasn't come out yet at Shanghai and Tokyo Disneyland, but I did some things that were in California's Disneyland, a free roaming droid named Jake. I did animation for, actually. I just said that I don't do animation full time, but on that one I did do the animation as well as the rig for, and it was kind of like a droid that they play tested in Tomorrowland for a few weeks. So they were testing it out to see how it would work with crowds and things, and it had nobody controlling it. It would go around and kind of look at people and do fun things like that.
That is so awesome. That's so cool. You know so much stuff about. That's just so cool. You just have such a wide array of just like, I don't know, skills, and I don't know, I just think that's really cool.
Master of none, but yeah, a good breadth of things. Yeah, certainly.
Well, I mean, it's still a whole. To me, it's a master of these things, because I'm so I know nothing about any of this stuff. So it's just like hearing you talk about it, I'm just like, wow, that's really cool.
Yeah, I love doing art on quote canvases that are unique, like getting to do projection stuff, getting to do animation on a robot, a lot of my physical work with water and jets and things. I love doing that kind of stuff. I see somebody in the comments that
Toy Stories.
In NFL 2K, they're saying Madden is lagging. Am I able to speak to any NFL games coming out? Even if there were, I wouldn't be allowed to say. But yeah, there's so many different. You got the Madden games, you got EA. I don't work for EA, but rather 2K. I forget which games that EA makes, and I think they even do make a basketball game. But I work for the company 2K.
Okay.
That's owned by Take-Two. Yeah.
Well, Toy Stories. Thanks for that, dude. You're awesome. You're awesome, man. But okay, so yes, you said you love to do different, just unique canvases of art, and one of those being toy photography. So where does toy photography rank in all of these different canvases? The CG stuff, everything.
I think right now it's pretty high near the top. A lot of my interests, I kind of explore them and kind of move, get interested in other things. So toy photography I've actually stuck with for a good amount of time. I've been doing it for almost a year now, and what I really enjoyed about it was kind of the whole Instagram thing. And unfortunately you've had a pretty bad experience with Instagram lately, so I hate if I say some of the fun things about it while you're still having such a negative, which is an awful thing that happened.
Don't even.
But, yeah, I actually got into toy photography because my wife is a product photographer. She works at a company that does a bunch of products for household items and things, and then she photographs them. But her real passion is toy photography, and so I was making foam sets for her out of kind of the foam that you get at Home Depot. And then I started just to take some pictures with my phone of those. And then one night I decided to try playing around with the DSLR, and I got a picture that I kind of liked, and I put that on my Instagram. It got a moderate amount of likes. I didn't have many followers at the time, and it that's what these platforms are built for. That that feeling, they addict you to the feeling of the likes and things.
Yeah, definitely.
And on the surface, that's kind of a bad thing. But one of the things that really kept me going with toy photography is we have a really bad crunch each summer to get the game out every year.
Okay.
And we have a good time. November, December, January, things are pretty light and stuff, but the cadence is really big crunch going into it. And one of the things I love my job, I love the people I work with and stuff, but those crunches are hard, and it can be really tough doing so much programming and not art. So this year, the toy photography was really my outlet for art, whereas my previous jobs, I had a good mix of the two, because as I mentioned, the technical artist has kind of those two mixes of the disciplines. This one's a lot more programming heavy. So that difficulty plus the crunch time, I was really able to balance it a lot this summer, and get those those feelings of the endorphins from the likes and things.
Cool. So not a lot of room to be creative. So photography is like your creative outlet.
Yeah, and
you obviously have a lot of creativity going.
Yeah, and I don't want to say that I don't mean it as a bad thing when I say this current job is not creative. It's just what the job is. This job is programming. It's much more whatever side of the brain is they say is programming versus art. And so it was just nice to balance things out this way.
Cool. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So you're, I feel like you probably told me before that your wife was a toy photographer. Does she put her work anywhere online for us?
Yeah.
Other toy
yeah. I'd love to plug her work. It is. Let me make sure I have the right name. It's Bailey Garver Photography. Oh no, I think it's just Garver Photography. Let me actually check Instagram before I plug the name. Apologies.
Cool, because I don't know how the heck I haven't even known about this. And
yeah, I keep hoping that she'll join the Discord and things, but she's pretty busy. Yeah, so it is Garver Photography. I'll drop it in the Sirdork chat.
Oh, perfect. That's awesome. Yeah, I'm gonna go. Actually, you know what? I'm gonna go right now. And Toy Stories in the chat. He's been a member for 16 months. He says, "Who decides the skill rating for players? Steph Curry is a cheat code. LOL." That's an interesting question, actually.
Yeah. What am I allowed to say? There is a group within the company that does all the social stuff. And I know if you're familiar with 2K, there's a guy named Ronnie. He's kind of like the face of a lot of the social interactions and things. I think there's a team that he's involved with, because I don't know him personally, and I don't know this team. They're kind of up north in a separate studio. We have multiple studios doing different parts of the game, and I unfortunately don't know the details of how that gets decided. But there have been some times where I've watched videos of they reveal the OVR rating to the player on kind of a live stream or something. And there's been a couple where the player actually kind of seems disappointed, and I always feel kind of bad for them. They're like, oh, but it's supposed to like be this positive thing, like, hey, we're revealing the number to you, but then you can kind of tell that they wanted a higher number. So I think there's kind of some funny decisions behind the scenes, and yeah, I'm sure it's derived from stats and things, but I'm sure there's some other unknowns that define things. I don't know how any of it works internally though.
That's so interesting. And Siva has also been a member for 16 months. Thanks, Siva. Best. Cool. So, how often do you apply these skills you've gotten from working on video games and imagineering stuff? How often do you apply skills from there to your toy photography?
Every time. The simpler ones are going to be some of the ones where you clearly see CG in the shot. So, I'm looking at what you've got here. This one has some minor CG. I just added a few kind of graphic elements. Those the rings. I took the picture of the PowerPoints off the internet, but the rings around them were generated with AI. I prompted just like a mix between um, a Halo difficulty thing with a Power Rangers morpher, and it came out with that. It's a very contentious thing to speak about. I myself am not a fan of AI, but I'm going to be doing a lot of stuff where I'm trying to use AI responsibly. I made a post a while ago that actually kind of discouragingly got a lot of likes. It was just some random Halo characters that I made with AI, and I did kind of a long rant saying that I stole this work, because it kind of is. It's training a model of AI based on people's existing work who did not give their consent to
Right.
do it, and and I don't personally like that myself. But this technology is not going to go away. So some of the
Yeah.
things that I'm going to be doing coming up are using AI in the way that I think it should be used as concept art, to make 3D sculpted characters, the concept art for that, and then print those on my 3D printer, and then put them in toy photo shots. And it's going to be kind of an exploration on how to responsibly use AI images in a workflow.
Cool. Which
So
sound it's I feel like we're only at the very tiny infancy of this type of AI stuff, and it seems to be growing very quickly. So I would be very
yeah,
interested in hearing about that because it's very interesting and it is very scary. Toy Stories in the chat says AI is kind of scary, and it is for
yep.
sure. Um,
I'm definitely worried, especially for my friends who do concept art and things. Is you know, luckily there's still some limitations to it that are that are going to keep it to the realm of concept art at least for now, and so that's promising. But I imagine that it's going to be bad for concept artists because I think wages are going to go down because it's going to be so much easier to start generating some basic stuff without the skills. I think there will always be people refining it and redrawing other angles of certain things if the AI can't reliably generate other angles that are needed. But yeah, it's definitely going to be devastating in some ways and helpful in a less number of ways, in my opinion.
yeah, yeah. I'm very curious and nervous to see how the world and stuff like that kind of whatever
Yeah.
happens, just what happens.
But
Um,
back to the question that sent me on that tangent is, so on the surface, some of them do have CG in them. Remember the Sirdork redo challenge I did, those
yes,
gems that were 3D.
yes.
So some of those have direct applications to my day-to-day work, but some of the more indirect stuff is actually, for instance, lighting. All the lighting that I do in photography is very analogous to lighting in CG, and easier in some ways and harder in other ways. It's harder because I actually have to set these up on tripods. I have to buy the lights. I have to control them like we all know how to do, change the lighting and stuff. But in CG, I can just place one in the scene floating wherever I want.
That's so interesting. So, what example or as a photo as an example of that? Which one should I pull up? Because I'm really curious about that.
Let's see. I let me think about. Ooh, pull up that one with the blue UI in front of it down in the bottom right of your current screen. So this might be an interesting one. Uh, Here I put in with CG just some graphics. I took them off from offline or from online and put them in here. And in CG, I could actually make that thing glow and emit light on the figure,
Oh, okay.
or in the 3D model. And one of the things that's easier about toy photography is you don't need to render it out. Depending on what you're working in, like if you're working in a real-time engine like Unreal or Unity, you see the lighting right away. But if you're working in something like Maya, uh, there are some real-time plugins, but for the most part, you're doing a low-quality render first to see each change to your lighting. And that's one of the things that's really neat about physical lighting in real life, is actually getting to see how the light affects it in real time.
Right.
And so one of the things that's different about this is I kind of had to anticipate where I wanted to put graphics, because I knew I was going to put this UI in front. So I physically put a light there to light it blue. And that ring on the top as well is kind of like a glowing
Okay.
holographic ring that the character has. I put a little bit of a light there in a separate pass. And so that's one of the things that is really interesting about toy photography versus CG, is that I could actually be really perfectly making any elements that are CG light the character properly. But I have to think about it much more manually in toy photography compared to CG.
So if you're generating like light in CG, so let's say you put, for example, this one, you're putting a blue light right here, and that blue
Hmm.
light is going to reflect onto the figure and stuff. And so is the CG able to pick up the different textures and the shapes on the figure to make the lighting look the way it is?
I oh yes, you when we talk about figure, you mean the 3D model in the lighting, right?
So okay,
Or do
maybe
you mean a physical toy?
like a physical toy. Like, are you so when you were explaining before, you're not putting a, like, say a figure, and then you're then take the photo, and you're not, and then you're generating a CG something, and then the light from that will
Nah,
pick up on.
I no, yeah. What I was describing earlier, the lighting in CG would be with a 3D model,
Oh, oh,
and so
oh, okay.
I could actually have this screen in the scene and tell the computer this screen emits blue light of some value, and it's going to light the figure.
Okay, I got
Whereas
you. I
taking
see.
this toy photo, I had to anticipate that I was going to add a blue light there, and I also wasn't sure what color I wanted to make it. So I actually did multiple paths where I did a blue light, I did a green light. I could always color correct in Photoshop, but since he's already blue, I'd have to be trying to figure out
I see what you mean.
like, oh yeah, so that's what I meant by that. Yeah.
Totally. Brick something in the live chat says, "I think there's confusion," and yes, there was. um, that's so cool though. All right, so I'm gonna pull up another one that and what also what's really cool too is, like, you don't, your whole page isn't based on like one specific type of way to create different whatever. There's so many different avenues you go through to create final products for photos all the time. Like this one, for instance. Like, is there any digital, like this seems like super just practical. Everything,
Yep.
this the set and
Yep.
the pumpkin.
Yep. The only editing here was wire removal and color correction. Yeah, you can see that the knuckles here, it's he looks really pale and strange. This was a special edition of the Sonic toys that look
Oh,
absolutely terrible. You can see he's a lot more red in the final footage. He's kind of pink in this one.
definitely.
They released like a 30th anniversary special edition of Sonic Tails and Knuckles that they're supposed to be like neon colored, and they just look awful. They look like bootlegs, with all the wrong colors, and that's the only one that I could find at the time. So I tried to color correct it back to the proper red, and uh, it wasn't perfect, but you know, he should be close to the right colors now.
Well, he looks great, and I think this shot is just really
Thank
great.
you.
The colors are just very satisfying, and I just love how you broke apart the pumpkin, and I don't know, it's just, this is a great shot, and then just the background is, colors are very complimentary, and I love the dead grass kind of
Yes,
that you
this
added.
grass, I bought it live for another shot. Uh, it's gonna be kind of far down.
So that's
And
real
I
dead grass.
oh yeah, I bought it from Home Depot. It's
Uh,
I don't know what it's for. It's like for putting in pots and things for terrariums, maybe. I'm not sure. But if you scroll
oh, here it
down,
is again.
probably. Oh
That's
yeah,
the dead.
yeah. So there's dead grass. There's one specific shot that I wanted the dead grass for. So I bought the grass live for a different shot that did need green grass, and I said, oh, I'm gonna wait for this to die to do a specific one from a Halo commercial. It's gonna be where the gun is on the ground and Master Chief is reaching toward it. There, yeah. So this is from a specific Halo commercial that I really liked,
I think I
and I
remember
remember
this.
it had kind of dead grass and stuff, and so that's what I. So I had two shots in mind when I did it, but they were a month apart because I needed the grass to go brown for this shot.
That's so cool, and and you held on to it, and
It's still out there because I haven't thrown it away.
that's
It's probably
so
moldy.
that's so cool, and I love how that's real dead grass that you have on, like, that is so cool. Um,
Yeah, I've
awesome.
got a lot of use out of that. It all just came in kind of a plastic tray, so I just have like this much space to work with, and
That's
then
it. That
go
sounds
from
like a
there.
nice little. So you get that at Home Depot. It's just like a little
Hmm.
plot
Yeah, like
or
20
whatever.
bucks at Home Depot or something.
That's really cool. I kind of want to
Yeah.
get some of that. And then letting it die. That's so cool.
Hmm.
I love
Yeah,
that
if you scroll
idea.
down, probably quite a few scrolls, I'll let you know. There's, because this is kind of relevant to the ZBrush stuff
Oh,
we were
this
talking
is
about.
cool. That's so cool.
Oh yeah, there's a Vaporeon deep in the
Over
splashes
here.
there that we lost the head of,
Oh
soon after
no.
that one. Yeah. Yeah. So keep scrolling. You're gonna see one that's like 4 images in a square,
Okay.
of different
Here you go.
seasons. There it is. Yeah. So this was actually concept art done by, uh, Ben Ben Rogers. Oh, you can see storyboard Rogers. He makes some really cool stuff. So if you're on Instagram looking at
Cool.
this, check him out. But he made an illustration of this grunt with this character called a space gopher. They're these little guys that run around. They're kind of inconsequential, but they're cool little creatures in the newest Halo game.
Cool.
And he did these illustrations, and I wanted to do a toy photography of it. So I asked him if we could like collaborate, and he was totally stoked about it. So what I did was I sculpted this in ZBrush, and then posed him into each of the 4 poses from these pictures, because in the pictures they're just illustrated, but I needed a toy, and I wasn't going to make an articulated toy that would be able to do that. So I sculpted him in these 4 different poses and 3D printed him, and then painted them each
Wow.
individually. And so the paint jobs have kind of some slight differences, but tried to do them all kind of the same.
That is
And so
so
yeah, that's
cool.
each a different 3D print to get each one of those poses.
Wow. And so that's so cool. So each one of these, and that's so cool. There's so much going on here.
And as far as the credit for the idea, that's all Ben's idea. I don't think I have the image on my Instagram, but he was really stoked about it, and his original image was really cool.
And he says phenomenal work.
Mm-hmm.
That's so cool. This is
Yeah,
really
he was
awesome.
super supportive of it.
And a little bit of CG here for the
Mhm.
shield.
Yep,
The shield
just a
/ umbrella.
3D model that I kind of overlaid, and I painted out the original shield. The original shield was just really weird and bent, and so then I just fully replaced the shield part with CG.
That looks way cooler. That looks so
Yeah.
cool. So awesome. And then here he is. Here are all the different
Oh yeah.
pieces you made.
Hmm.
And so you sculpted them yourself, printed them, and painted them.
Yeah,
Oh.
and to be clear, when I say sculpt, I mean in ZBrush.
Right.
Yeah, so
You digitally sculpted it.
digitally
Sculpted
sculpt. Yeah.
That is so cool.
Yeah.
So I guess while we're on the topic of
Oh yeah. Oh, you can see one of the illustrations on the right side
Over
there.
here.
That's one of Ben's original
spot
drawings.
on. Even the like lens flare of the moon or in the background. That's so cool.
Yeah, because I shot it against a monitor for the background for these, and so I went into Halo and screenshotted places that kind of looked like his illustration
Wow.
at those times of day in the game, and used those as the backgrounds on the screen.
So much work. That's so cool. So
Yeah, that
so
was a
cool.
really fun one.
So while we're on the topic of 3D sculpting, because you've got a bunch of really cool posts. Like, so there's one of these head sculpts that you did. So here's this guy. So you sculpted this guy.
Yep.
Thrall Slayer Brute from Halo
Yes,
Wars.
that is a brute from Halo Wars. Yep, and so here's the final character of it. So it's the original toy is beneath it, and I built it so that the head. Just let me get it in the right spot. There we go. I built it such that the head would fit over it nice and snug. But because he's got so much hair and shoulder pads and stuff, it's all a single piece. So he's a little bit limited in his movement, but I designed it so he could still try to move a little, and he still can move his head a little bit. It moves the shoulders with it. But yeah, so so I did a paint job on the actual toy itself, and then there's a bunch of 3D printed parts for the legs and the belt and things.
And so what was the base figure?
The base figure was just a regular brute figure from Halo.
Okay.
And he had a small head, which was perfect for this because it almost looked bad. The head was so small, but you put the helmet on and it kind of looks more normal. But I just took that helmet off and then put this whole cap on top of it.
That's so
And that's
awesome.
what that is.
So cool.
Yeah, I'm still meaning to get a nice shot with them because I sell all the custom Halo parts on Etsy. But the only shot that I have with him is a specific Christmas shot, so it's not necessarily in theme for me to put on the Etsy page yet.
Right. Well, I mean, this one alone is. I mean, you've got a bunch of stuff in here. I'm sure.
Yeah, I wanted something more nice for the title image, but
That's so impressive.
my cat wanted to say hi.
Hey,
I
buddy.
just let him say hi so that he can stop
Hi.
meowing at me. Say hi, Perkins.
Hey, Perkins.
And now we're gonna put you back on the ground. You're gonna stop meowing, okay? Thank you.
He did say hi. I heard.
Yep.
Yeah, I just think this is just so impressive. That's just so
Thank you.
cool. I could never think of like, you know what? Like in my case, I'd like stormtroopers or something. Like, you know, I would really love a phase 1 clone trooper of this. And I'm gonna go sculpt, you know, just literally sculpt it, and then print it, and then paint it. It's amazing.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun because I love this scale of Halo toys, but they don't have a lot from the older games and specific characters that I really like. I don't want to bring too many toys over there, but excuse me, Perkins. So these guys, if you're a fan of Halo, you'll be familiar with them as a Halo or an elite honor guard from Halo 2.
Awesome.
So that they never had a figure of him. So this is the most popular one on Etsy. I've sold a good number of, and I print them in clear orange resin, so that when I light them, let me put a flashlight on. When I light them kind of from behind, oh, this looks terrible on the webcam, but I think you can kind of see it.
Oh no, I can see that. That's awesome. You can definitely
angle,
see
right?
the translucence.
Yeah, so I paint just the edges to be metal, and then it stays translucent really nicely. And this guy, you might recognize him as when you played Halo 3 as 4 players, you would have a blue elite and this purple elite with a special helmet and shoulders. So that's the most recent one that I've made.
Oh, that's so cool.
This one was based off, this is another one where I saw somebody draw it, Don Jacoby Creations. He does a lot of Halo concept art.
Yeah,
and stuff.
he's got a Cubone skull on his shoulder.
So in Halo, there's like an elite skull that you can put on your Master Chief or your armor. So it was really clever. The whole idea of it was based on his drawing, but putting it into real life, and that was a really popular one because he promoted it himself and was super excited about it. So
awesome.
It was a nice collaboration. And lastly, this is a fully custom. It's just a statue. It's not articulated or anything, but it's an engineer from Halo that they haven't made a figure at this scale yet. So it's one of my favorite creatures from it.
That's so awesome.
I made it for that.
And so how long, Artistic Toaster is just specifically asking about 3D sculpting. How long have you been 3D sculpting for?
Oh, when I started 3D sculpting would have been 2009, so 14 years or so. But I don't sculpt every day. It's I am not the quality level of a 14-year ZBrush sculptor. But that's the first time that I ever got into that.
I think it's so incredibly impressive.
Yeah, some people make completely photoreal maquettes of celebrities or characters from shows and things that just look photoreal. It's amazing what you can sculpt in these programs.
Perkins is like staring right at you.
Hi, Perkins.
He's like, "Hey, Dad, are you done?"
I don't know why. I think he has food. I don't know why he's yelling. Hopefully, he can't be heard through the mic.
So you have the sculpts basically on Etsy, and then so it's when someone buys them, you print them, and do you paint them and send them out too, or do you just send out just the prints themselves?
They're kits. Yeah, so the expectation is that you're putting it together. Like if you're a Halo custom maker, you're probably good with glue and stuff. Knowing what to put together. It just takes too long to paint things to make anything financially viable. So doing the kits is a lot more feasible.
Do you ever do you also sell the like digital sculpt of it so someone else could print it?
Not of the things that I sell, but everything else I give away. So I have a lot of sculpts like this one. This one's free on my mini factory if you search Halo Engineer, World of Halo, because I'll never sell this because it's too hard to print reliably. Like it took a few prints to get this one, and so I'm only really selling things that are reliable for me to print and sell at good quality. You can get a great quality print out of this as long as you have your printer settings right, and I don't always have my printer settings
Gotcha.
right. I kind of get them to a good enough spot for me to work with for the final piece, but not super good quality for big things. What's great about these is they're so small that I don't get a lot of print errors. It's only on the bigger things that my lack of maintenance on my printer gives me issues.
Got you. And so anyone who's watching and he's all this stuff he's talking about like on his store, if you go to his Instagram, which is right here, Stegosaurus Rex, and I also have it, right here in the video description. It's all right there, all the links. Just go to his link tree right here. It's all right there. And he's got a website too, which we'll go over as well. So it's all right there. It's all right there. And
I see.
Make sure you're following him.
Yeah, thank you. I very much appreciate that. And I'll definitely be having a lot more. I'm trying to get more types of shots in that are not just Halo. I think a lot of my audience is Halo customs and things, and I find that kind of gets the most likes and stuff. But I'm trying to branch out into a wider stuff. I just had a booth at Anime LA where I was selling prints and toys and things. In fact, yeah, right there. So
that was something I was going to talk to you about. So you had a booth at Anime LA.
Yeah,
tell me about that.
It was a lot of fun. It was the plan was to really. I do a lot of kind of data analysis on my Instagram. I'll put out ads to try to get followers, see what type of ads are most effective, what type of images are well received. I have a whole Excel document where I put in the number of likes, the number of followers I had at the point of that post, but also or subjective things like my perceived quality of the image, the subjective effort that went into it. And then I wrote a Python script. Python's a simple programming language that would go through that whole database of information that I manually input and run any kind of question I can think of. Like, it's not a program that I could release to people right now, because anytime I want a new metric, I'll write a function to do that. So I can write a function that says, look at all of this and tell me what day of the week is the best to post based on this data. Now, there's already tools out that do that, but what makes mine extra insightful for what I'm doing is I can say, what is the most effort or the average effort for my most liked images? So some of my shots, the splashing one that's at the top of my page, we went to the beach at sunrise in the morning. It's an hour drive, early in the morning. I didn't want to get up that early. I went into the cold ocean. This shot took me 2 hours to get. I was up to my thighs by the time I got this shot, and it kept falling over and stuff. I even set up the scene by zip tying it all to chicken wire that I could bury in the sand. And this was a particularly rocky beach, so you could go out really deep and there were still rocks out there. It's not a beach where you would surf or anything. It's a very, very tide pool, rocky beach. And I was out in the ocean for 2 hours trying to get just the right shot. And right at the end, I got it. And the sun was already pretty high in the sky by this time. But that took a lot of effort. And so I think this is one of my most well-liked images. So in this particular outlier case, this got a ton of likes for what it was. But what led me to this was me running analysis on what kind of elements people liked on my Instagram. And when I ran that through the code, some things came up. People like water splashes, they like sunset shots. My audience likes halo shots. So I put all of that together to try to make an image that people would really like. And it probably is my most well-liked shot.
Huh. So your research has proven to be correct?
Yes, but one of the really interesting things is this probably is one of the most effort shots I've ever put in. But on average, I rated my effort from 1 to 5 for all these images. on average, my data spit out about a 3.5 effort for maximum likes. And so even though this one got a lot of likes by far, the average, if I want to get likes on Instagram for my type of work with reasonable effort, it's like put a 3.5 into it, which I won't always follow. If I want to put effort into a shot, I'm going to put all my effort into it. But if I'm trying to grow the channel and make things that people are liking the most, my data is telling me, don't try super hard all the time. It's kind of a weird
Yeah,
opposite to
it's
my
so weird.
instincts kind of thing.
It's so weird, and it's definitely true. And like, for instance, with my fiance Harleen, she will put a ton of work in taking professional looking photos, and she'll take hours editing, and it gets whatever X amount of likes, and then she'll just do a quick selfie, and it gets that 1,000 million more likes than anything else. It's so funny how that happens.
Yeah, and the Instagram algorithm always changes too. So the data that I'm running right now might not be relevant a year from now, and maybe some of my data from 6 months ago might not even be relevant because things have changed too. But at least it kind of gives me a ballpark of some of these things.
That's so interesting. That's so cool.
Yeah.
And I do want to say hey to everyone popping up in the chat. Toy Addict and Letty is here, and OG Hedda. And also, so back to the 3D sculpting. Artistic Toaster seems to be really interested in that. He says, any tips for beginners on that? I wanted to start getting into making custom heads and parts for my figures. How would you say to get started with doing that? If you wanted to start doing sculpting.
I hate to say Blender. Blender's the free program. If you can get your hands on Maya, like Maya used to have a student version that you could have for 3 years, just use it non-commercially. And that's what I used for a long time. They recently stopped that. So I now use my work computer. So Maya's a lot less accessible to people nowadays. But that's my program of choice. If you want something free, Blender's the go-to. Has a really steep learning curve though, so be prepared for that. The hardest things in making this work is getting the pieces to fit on the toys, and it requires a ton of guess and check.
Oh, yeah.
I use Elegoo Saturn for my printing. I used to have a Mars. The Mars was just fine until a sensor broke. The company's not good. The company wouldn't even respond to my emails to get the sensor fixed. But the printer was so good before that sensor breakage, I went and bought their better version of the printer after 3 emails of not responding to me. So it's kind of a love-hate relationship with the company itself, but the printers are really good and relatively affordable. And relatively, I mean, like a Elegoo Mars is probably like $300 or so. And the hardest part is the guess and check of making the sizes work. So once you learn 3D modeling, so I guess a first step for a beginner would be to learn 3D modeling, but my more significant advice in making custom parts would be for people who already 3D model. It's do a lot of guess and check, but do test prints where you'll measure out what you think you need, but it'll almost always not be right. So for instance, the headpiece to stick on here nice, I got this one just perfect by chance, or not by chance, by lots of guess and check. So I measured with a micrometer how big that hole was, but tolerances on 3D printers, depending on what type it is, will change how well it fits no matter what that size is going to need some adjustment. So what I did was I made multiple versions of this head with different sized holes, and I actually put a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and wrote down what the diameter of the hole to fit on here was and figured out which one fit best. And so that's easily the hardest part about making toys, especially for the ones that I'm selling, because it has to fit, perfectly for the product. And so that's definitely one of the hardest parts. And if you have access to a 3D scanner, use that. So what I did for these was I 3D scanned, I borrowed a friend's scanner to scan out the shape of it. And it doesn't give a great scan, but it gave a basic shape of it that I could then Boolean or cut out from the 3D model to make things fit really nicely.
Cool. I feel like that's really good to know. So when you first, so let's say with that one elite guy that you had, it took you all those basically trial and error to get it to fit. Once you were able to find the right size that fit, were you able to use that measurement for further customization and other prints
Yep.
that you've done for the same type of figure. So that's good.
Yep, exactly. Any type of head that uses the same peg size. What I did was I took that negative shape and booleaned the opposite of that, so I had a positive, and then I can take that positive and boolean it into any other shape to get
Gotcha.
exactly that head hole.
Cool. That's so interesting. That's so
Yeah.
interesting. And Spicy Rice says, have you ever done any Warhammer 40K stuff?
I had a very small army in Warhammer way back in the day, and I learned how much it costs, and I never went past that. But that's a good thing to bring up. That's the first time I ever did any miniature painting. I do tons of miniature painting now. This might be a good opportunity to go to my website.
Okay.
So if you want to show, let's see, is it on the Dungeons and Dragons page?
And this
Oh no,
is-
miniature painting.
This is Stegosaurus.com, by the way.
Yes, Stegosaurus.com. If anybody's interested, I have all my projects on here, all kinds of CG and home automation stuff, lots of D&D stuff that might be relevant in this conversation too, because I do a lot of lighting during my D&D. So yeah, we'll probably talk about that in a minute. But under the miniature painting here, that'll be in the bottom right corner of your screen. So Warhammer is actually the first things that I ever did miniature painting on. And then, my wife, Garver Photography, she did a lot of these shots here, actually, the ones that are against
cool.
nice white backdrops, because she has such a different style, a better style than me, in that she lights her things very nicely. I can get away a lot with kind of rougher lighting because I do a lot of action shots with halo and stuff, and then I do a lot of editing, and she gets it captured in the camera so well compared to what I can do, and that's what I love collaborating with her when she has time to do shots, because they're just so clean and nice and professional.
They really are.
That's what I love about her work.
These are perfect for like product stuff, for websites and for a lot of things. These are perfect.
Yeah.
These are so cool.
Thank you.
Oh,
And
cool.
I build out landscapes for D&D. I'll have like full-on foam dioramas for a lot of like every session. There's always at least one thing that I do each session that's really big. I'll have something as simple as just like a landscape with smoke and stuff physically there on the table, or on some of the higher end things. Yeah, I guess we can go to that D&D page now, because this is going to be relevant. I actually did a whole. I do the kind of like musical numbers from time to time. Because a lot of times that one there. A lot of times I'll have something outside, like a Survivor style rope puzzle, like they have to pull ropes to make a ball go up and do stuff. So my players are used to having some kind of physical element in the game where they're going outside and doing stuff. But one particular time, that one there, you can go ahead and just start playing that while I describe it. It was my friend's birthday, and his character was coming across a circus that he was kind of giving money to, but this character was squandering the money and stuff. So I animated all of these lights in my home control system. Like I can control all kinds of stuff in my home and different stuff. And I had this whole song and dance routine planned out. But what they didn't know was that just outside of the front door and the garage were two dancers that I hired. And at the middle point of the song, I stomp my feet and I shout, "No!" And they come in through each door and start dancing along with me. So if you want to skip ahead, probably about to the middle. Yeah, or go back just a few more seconds so you can see them come in. But so at this point, I stomp my feet, I shout, "No!" And they come in through the doors, and you can see the lights moving to point at them. Those were all animated as well. So that's kind of relevant to the toy photography, is I have some experience doing DMX lighting work at Imagineering. And so I applied that and animated it all inside of our room. And this was all coordinated over email. We never had a rehearsal. We did this just because I didn't pay for any rehearsal time or anything. So I just said, here's my plan. I mapped it out. I gave them a basic, very cringy version of my work in progress choreography, and then told them where they would be coming in, where they'd be standing. And they said, okay, yeah, and we'll handle all of the our moves ourselves. And I hadn't even seen their costumes before this. They just told me that they had circus themed costumes. I was like, oh, that's perfect. Yeah, this will be great. And there's a lot of ways it could have gone wrong, but everything just happened to work just right.
Everyone seems to be having a great time.
Oh yeah, that's
so
probably
cool.
one of our favorite sessions that we've had.
That is so awesome.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
Yeah, that particular group was the first one that I ever DM'd, and it lasted 4 years, and we actually got to conclude the story after 4 years. It was a lot of fun.
Wow, that's so cool. I've never done any D&D before, but geez, that's so cool.
Yeah, you should. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah,
I used to stream it. I did speaking of being banned from stuff, I did D&D on Twitch for about a year, and we raised basically all money that came in through Twitch. I set it up so it would trigger my smoke machine to blow at me, so all the viewers could have fun blasting smoke at me and stuff. And then I would match all the money, and then my company matches any amount that we made. So anything you donated to the show would get matched basically 4 times. And we donated a bunch of money to we did at least 4,000 to it was a salt marsh themed campaign, so we donated it to a marshlands. And a few months after the campaign ended, Twitch banned me they for fraud, and they still owed me money, and I'm still getting money monthly from them because they send out a little bit at a time. But they stopped the money payments for about 3 months, and I had to email a bunch of times, and I read online that they just send out sometimes a message that says, we won't respond to you again, just like the one that you got from Facebook or Meta. And that was 3 months of really being a bummer, because
Man.
I couldn't stream anymore. And luckily the campaign was finished, but I had already donated the money that Twitch owed me. They owed me still a couple hundred before they finally gave my account back. And then they gave me no explanation. They said, sorry for any inconvenience this caused.
Wow, that sucks.
Yeah.
They just don't care. That sucks, man. That really, and for doing something good. I remember you telling me about that.
That's right.
So I keep forgetting because I started asking you about it. I'm really curious for you to tell me about it, but I really want to know about how it went here at Anime LA. I'm really curious about this. We kind of got started on it, and then we got sidetracked.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of work too. Sitting. I've had a couple conventions where I was selling my own custom toys and things, like little Stakosauruses, and like the character. You can see one behind me on the shelf right there.
Yeah, I see him.
So I've sold those at conventions, and by sold those I mean in 2 conventions that I did, I sold one of them. Neither of them were profitable. And Anime LA was not profitable either. But I went into that from my last 2 experiences knowing that. And we learned a ton of stuff. One of the main things was trying to expand my Instagram channel into more than just Halo toys. So I wanted to do a lot of anime type stuff moving forward. I wanted to try to get more audience doing that. So one of the big things here was that wheel in the left corner. Followers got to spin it for $1 to $5 credit, and because I had some things that were $1, I had some stickers and stuff. You were guaranteed an item for a follow.
Cool.
And so I wanted to calculate compared to my ads. My ads on average, depending on the type of shot, but my data tells me that based on just running my ads, acquisition of followers is costing on average about 40 cents from the ads themselves. And I wanted to see what would it cost to take everything I paid for the booth, subtract any profits I made, and then divide those profits by how many followers I got, subtracting how much it costs for the stuff that I actually gave away. And I haven't run those final calculations, but it's going to be pretty high. I paid something like $5.50 for the booth. I made $50, and I got, I want to say 160 followers. So it's going to be a pretty high acquisition of follower cost for that one. But I love having that data that says, okay, I could have a booth here. And within that, we also, my cousin and I were running it. We also did like analytics on how many people would stop by with different factors. So for the first day, we would try an hour of just writing something down or drawing in notebooks, not making eye contact with people. For the next hour, we would engage with people. For the next one, I would stand on the outside talking to him so that people could maybe feel free. Because when I walk around a convention, I don't really want to look at people that I might buy from, because each one of those tables has to be an interaction if you make eye contact, and that's not a bad thing, but it can be an uncomfortable thing, especially if you're going to hundreds of these booths. And so we were thinking, a lot of people around us had all their art really high up. And so on later days of it, we brought in some just PVC pipe and set up a little thing where all the art and all the messaging was up high. And then we compared how many people stopped by and did the free spins on those days as well. And I haven't run any of that data, but we have intricate hour-to-hour details on exactly how many people came by with each one of these different strategies. And it was a lot of fun.
That's really
doing that kind of stuff with him.
Because I get it. When you're at a convention and you go to a booth and they start talking to you, you're almost kind of like, I just want to look. I don't really want to talk to you. And then
you kind of feel guilty if you're not interested and you walk away. It's like every booth that you're not interested in, there's a layer. It's not guilt, but you have to have that break off conversation.
Right.
And there's some negativity to that. Even if it's a positive interaction, you have a chat and everything, at some point, if you're not going to buy something from them, you have to move on and say, oh, I'm not interested in anything here. You can say that in nice ways, but you're basically saying, nothing here I'm interested in, I'm moving on, kind of thing.
A
lot of people say that, yeah. And so we wanted to experiment a lot with trying out different demeanors and different setup of the table.
Yeah, that is really interesting. Because, I've had that same, me doing booths and tables and stuff, thinking like, okay, just knowing me, I just want to have good posture and talk to people. But like, would people actually like it better if I kind of just like was on my phone and then they can just look on their own? That is really interesting.
Anecdotally, like I said, I haven't run the numbers, but by far we had so many more people participate and understand the messaging when we were looking down busy with something.
Yeah.
Because I think people, if you're engaging with them and they don't want to engage, they're going to look away more quickly. And our signage, as you can see here, had kind of small wording. That's something I'll take ahead for future booths and things, is to be clearer with the marketing, with the presentation. There's a lot going on here. I'm selling toys that I made. I'm selling stickers. I'm selling posters. A lot of people didn't quite understand the messaging. Even when they were getting something for free, they were surprised when we'd point out, oh yeah, these stickers up here are $2. These postcards are $2. Like, oh, I didn't even notice that behind that big dragon statue. But a lot of people were visiting because of the dragon statue. So it's kind of like finding that right balance of even telling a story. I've got that explosion there with a card of one of my pictures. This one here. So that explosion that's on the table, that's just made out of cotton. And then when I put it slightly out of focus and light it orange from beneath, it looks really cool. I had this picture sitting next to that explosion to tell the story of, hey, here's how I make these sets, photograph them, and here's the result. But people also didn't get that. Anytime I had a conversation with somebody and I showed them, I explained that to them, they were surprised by it. And so there were a lot of learning about messaging that was really important for that one. Totally. Most definitely.
Yeah, the first time I did one of those, I feel like I learned so much about that. And the main take back I did was like this easier and simpler my table is, the better. Like,
yeah, definitely.
If I could just have I just have this is what I do, big letters, and I had to write toy photography so people know exactly what it is.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, the easier.
And a lot of people didn't know what toy photography was. So a lot of people, good conversations talking about it, and met a few people who want to do it. And I said, shoot me a message. I'll give you all the information you'd like. So a lot of positive conversations, and
that's the best part.
There wasn't a lot of profit, but I didn't necessarily expect profit. I was kind of experimenting, and we had a lot of fun. Like I got a hotel down there for the whole, half week or so, and it was just fun because my wife came on the weekend days. So while my cousin manned the booth, we were able to actually go around as con goers and just have fun looking at stuff anyway. So it was a nice mix of working and playing.
Must have been a pretty big convention, because you're saying the booth fee seemed pretty pretty steep.
Yeah, the booth fees were steep. I when I did the booths at DesignerCon, like 2013, 2014, I believe it was around $300 for about the same size booth. DesignerCon was a lot smaller back then, though. Now it's a lot less indie artists. It's a lot more corporations and things.
Right.
And I'm sure the booths are more expensive there now. But yeah, a lot of the Anime LA vendors were also complaining that they sold too many booths, so it was too many for people to go through, and lots more competition. Now, I don't have any qualms with it being competition, but I do understand their points about people might not even get to their booth because there's too many to walk through in the artist alley. And
so interesting.
Yeah, so it's really interesting, the whole everything from a micro level to a macro level, how everything's affected there.
Yeah, that's so cool. And Brick Something also seems to be really just curious about the data analysis. I think that's really cool that you do that. I've never heard of anybody doing so much data analysis like that.
Yeah, in a lot of ways, that's kind of part of the fun of it. You know, the art is fun, but I love analyzing it and trying to game the system. And like I said, you know, getting the likes, you know, there's a certain thing to be said about, you know, just enjoy the art, just enjoy the work of it. But there's also something to be said of getting those likes, feeling like you're growing something, feeling like you're getting successful at something.
Yeah, of course.
And so it's very purposefully addictive. That's the whole business model of these companies. And I definitely, I was very aware that when I was kind of leaning on this for my positivity during crunch time, I knew it was an addictive thing, but I was very much cognizant of exactly how they make their money, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. And Steakasaur, or Comic Dad in the chat also was saying he's gonna give this a shot too, because he's gonna have a booth selling comics. So good luck selling the prints too while you're doing it, man. I'm super curious to hear how that goes. That's always so exciting.
Awesome.
So I have a bunch of questions from Instagram that people have submitted. Yes. So pretty much, as long as you're following me on Instagram, I'll throw out these on my story and say, hey, any questions for this person? And then you just throw them in there, and then we'll put them on here, and we'll see what they say. And so there's a lot of really great questions for Corey. And so first question be, what's your favorite character from any genre series?
Oh my God.
And your favorite voice line from them? Very specific.
Yeah, and I know that, you know, I'm trying to grab that now, and I know that tonight when I'm laying in bed, I'm going to think of a character that way more fits it, and I'm going to be bummed that I didn't say it now, but I'll just try to pick one now.
A Halo guy.
Yeah, let's pick a Halo one.
Master Chief doesn't really say a whole lot.
No, he doesn't. Let's see. No, you know, let's go with Stitch. I love Stitch, and my favorite line from him would probably be "I'm fluffy. I'm fluffy."
Oh, Stitch, like
Stitch,
Lilo and Stitch.
Lilo and Stitch, yeah.
I thought there was gonna be somebody from Halo called Stitch. Okay,
no,
nice.
Yeah. There's a lot of characters I like in Halo that say almost nothing, so I switched to be more generic with Stitch.
Sounds good. All right. Well, Ty Shelate, thanks for sending in the question.
Yeah, thank you.
So next one's from CJ Notorious, 1975, says, what got you into toy photography?
Yeah, my wife, Garver Photography. I was making foam sets for her. Like, if any of you are fans of Sailor Moon, this is the time door from Sailor Moon. I made this. This is one of the first ones I made.
Awesome.
It's out of just that foam from Home Depot, and I have kind of a hot wire. I have a couple tools for it. One's just a hand tool. The other one's almost like a table saw, but instead of a saw, it's got a wire.
Okay, yep.
A platform that you can do nice straight lines. And then I put it all together. I put just simple paper towel behind it, and then I lit this, so it's basically diffused by the paper towel to give like a slight.
Cool.
Yeah, and if you go to Garver Photography's page. Not you, Jared, but just anybody who goes there.
I definitely am.
There's an image there with Sailor Pluto and Sailor Saturn, who is standing in front of it, and it's got a really cool. She did a great job lighting it. I only did the lighting of this. Beautiful shot. It's one of my favorites of hers. we have a bunch of her shots printed and placed all around. Oh yeah, and these pillars on this side are just garden hose that I cut and just glued it all together,
Wow.
and then painted all the
Awesome.
same color.
And so I'm going to put it in the live chat too. Hers is Garver Photography.
Yeah.
Garver.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay, cool. I'm putting it in right now in case anybody wants to go follow.
This is another foam one that I made.
From Sonic.
Yeah, so
That's
you can actually see on the
awesome.
side, it's 4 of these sheets, these flat sheets, but 4 of them. And then it was kind of an interesting puzzle to figure out what I needed to cut of each one to make this nice solid loop through it. But once I figured that out, I cut those out, glued the 4 together, lengthwise. And then I was able to carve more from it. And then the top is just grass flocking. And the sides, you probably can't tell on the video, but they actually have a texture to them. So I painted a checkerboard pattern, but then I went back over with actual glue and sand only on those squares. So it actually has a rough texture that you might not be able to see on
That's so cool. That looks
video.
so good.
Yeah, this is probably one of my favorite foam pieces. And I've shot almost nothing using this. It's in the background of a few of my shots, but I still haven't gotten around to actually using it for main.
Your next shot. I want to see that in a shot.
I'll definitely let you know.
That's so cool. That's so awesome. Well,
so to answer the question after that tangent is making film sets for my wife, and then wanting to photograph them myself got me into it. And then when I found out that all these applications of lighting from CG had analogs to this, I bought up a ton of lights. I bought up a ton of toys. Toy photography. I kept myself from buying a lot of toys through a lot of my adult life. Once I started having money, I bought a ton of toys 10 years ago. And then I said, I got to stop. I don't have space for all of these. Toy photography gave me an excuse to start buying toys again. And it hurts the wallet, but
it sure does.
If I consider them art supplies, then it's more justified.
There you go, art supplies. Yep. But no, yeah, that's how it goes. But yeah, you do some amazing work with that. That's so cool.
Thank you.
So CJ, thanks for sending that one in, as always.
Thank you.
Ben, thanks so much for the super chat, man. It says thank you for your support, all the toy photography. Thank you for everything in toy photography community. Ben, thank you so much for sending that in. That's super nice of you, man. You are awesome. And thank you for all of your support. Okay, so next is from Random Figs Pix 661. It says, Stegosaurus, what's your favorite part about shooting photos? Mine's the different places I get to go.
Yeah, mine would definitely be the shots that this is gonna sound corny as hell, get to do with my wife, because we do have a good number of hobbies we do together, but not a ton of artistic hobbies. So when we're able to work together, it's fun to actually get to do something we're both passionate about together, but also if it's a shot that's going to get posted to my page, I know that I'm going to get one with really good lighting. So that's the part that I like the most definitely.
That's awesome. So
and just the extra set of hands too. I like.
Definitely, that's a huge help having an extra pair of hands. So you get to spend time with your wife, you get an extra pair of hands, and you will always get really good lighting because she knows what she's doing.
I get to take credit for, I always give her credit for the lighting, but if it's on my Instagram page, the first thing people see are, if it's a collaboration, they see all the good lighting, and, they can tend to assume it's me before they read the description. So I'm a little bit taking credit on the surface for her good work sometimes.
Well, you're definitely giving her plenty of credit now, you're doing good.
Most definitely. I'm trying to make everything clear for sure that she's that I'm not stealing her work.
All right, well, Random Figs, thanks for sending that one in. And speaking of collaboration, Nordic Toy Photography says, interested for a collab even with smaller accounts in the future?
Yeah, most definitely. I've been thinking about collabs. I even have a tab on that Excel sheet that I was talking about that I label if it's a collab or not. And so some of the things I labeled as collabs were the ones that I did a toy photo of somebody's illustration, like the ones we talked about before. Or I even marked down the ones that I do as the Sirdork challenges. I marked those down as a collaboration because they are something with somebody else sharing it actively.
Right.
And so I kind of group those all into a single category in my analytics, and those all have done better than the average across the board because it's somebody else's collaboration with it that they're promoting it as well, and they do really good on Instagram. And I just realized I said with smaller accounts, I don't care if it's a smaller account. I do love to do the collaborations and
Just
stuff.
in general.
So
Awesome.
yeah, hit me up definitely. And not just you, Nordic, but anybody who wants to. We could do. There's a lot of ways we could collab. You could do the shot, and I could do some CG. I could, 3D print something that you're interested in, and we can figure out shipping and stuff if it's not too expensive. Ship something, and yeah, all kinds of collaboration ideas. The more unique, the more interested I'll be in it. But even something as simple as we just do a similar shot or something, that could be fun too. So
cool.
Yeah, anybody who's listening to this, definitely hit me up. I'd love to.
Awesome. That's a fantastic answer. So this one is relative or regarding Perkins. Says, this is from Go Figure Go. That guy says, what's the most expensive thing your cat has knocked over?
Almost nothing. My cat, he's got a lot of things that bug me. He's because I work from home now. We have the office open, so I go in from time to time. But so as much as he annoys me, one problem that we do not have with him is knocking things over.
That's
he
great.
is very good at stepping over things. I can't think of a single expensive thing that he has ruined by knocking it over.
That's great.
Nasty stuff on the carpet and couches. He has a chronic asthma and sneezing, so he gets boogers everywhere. But as far as knocking things down, he never has.
That's great. My cats are the same way. They don't really touch anything. One time, a long time ago, they knocked over my little mini Christmas tree and broke my favorite ornament.
Oh no!
That's the only time. But other than that, they don't ever really. They just leave it alone, which is great. Yeah. Because not a lot of cats do that.
Yep.
So Go Figure Go, always sending in good stuff. Thanks for sending that one in, Miguel. And all right, this one's not really toy photography related, but I love questions like this. Toys Are Life
to the
says
future too.
Oh, all right. That's a quick answer. That's
that was an easy one.
That's definitely my favorite of the three. Is the second one for sure.
Yeah, there's the first one's a close second, but I just love the creativity of revisiting the old movie. I love the future shots and the design aesthetic of all of that, and I love time travel mechanics and things, and I do like most of the mechanics in Back to the Future, and that's where a lot of them come in heavily. All those things together, just an amazing story, and all the unique things that they did with the story, especially for the time, duplication of actors and things, all those things together.
Yeah,
favorite
there's
movie.
So much cool stuff in that movie, and I always loved how this one, second one was the best because they go into the future, they go into the present, and they also go back into the past, and there's just all these consequential things happening and all these different timelines, and it's just this is so cool. I feel like that's just a baseline for all interest in really cool kinds of grounded sci-fi stuff. If you're a kid, if you watch that, you're instantly hooked on that kind of thing forever after seeing that movie.
Yeah, most definitely.
So yeah, I said, my dad used to get so mad at me every time we would go to Blockbuster. I would always rent Back to the Future because it's it was the second one most of the time. I was just I don't want to rent that again. All right, Toys Are Life. Great question.
Yeah, thank you.
So next is from Mile High Plastic Guy, who is right here in the live chat. Says, how long have you been into toy photography, and how did you get started? So I know we just talked kind of about how you got started into toy photography, but how long have you been doing
long? I think it was last March. Yeah, the first one I took
almost a year.
So I started with just a few shots on my phone, and I got some nice response from that on just my Discord and on Instagram and stuff. And I had another shot that I wanted to do, but I wanted to put it on a tripod. And somewhere in the house I have tripods for my phone, but I was like, well, if I want to do a shot that requires this tripod and multiple passes, that was the point, because I wanted to do the whole lighting pass thing. I needed something that would sit on the tripod, so I just grabbed the camera, watched some video tutorials on how to set the different things. I had a basic knowledge of setting focus and a lot of composition stuff that kind of comes from my career and lighting itself as well. And the first one that I did with a DSLR was a picture of Tails from Sonic the Hedgehog. If you go to my website, that'll probably be the faster way to find it. Oh, it's in the top right there. Yeah.
That's a great one. This is one of the first shots you did.
Yeah. So
That's amazing.
We had bought the Supersonic for one of my wife's classes. She did a shot with Supersonic, and I built out like a foam cityscape, and that was one of my first. The Sirdork redo, if anybody remembers that, the Supersonic that I did, it was kind of a. He was just kind of floating there, or he was standing there with kind of some smoke, and then I redid that. But then this was the first one with DSLR, so we had a bunch of Sonic toys at the time, and that's all I had. I wasn't collecting the Halo toys yet, and I 3D printed that gem because I had some gems, some of the emeralds that were toys, but they were too big. I wanted to be holding it, so I 3D printed the gem. I 3D printed the bullet bill. Oh yeah, the bullet bill. The back of it is. You're probably familiar with these lights. They're little puck lights that I first heard of them from Atmosphere. It's a channel that does D&D miniature shooting, and they're little battery-operated pucks. They have a remote that can change the light. I don't have any within reach.
Okay.
But they're basically the back of the bullet bill there. That's what they look like. In this one, I painted black, and I used that as the light for the cotton to illuminate the back of it, and I 3D printed. I don't know who made the model for the bullet bill. It would take some time to figure out where I downloaded it and stuff to give real credit, unfortunately. But yeah, so I just printed that out, pasted it there, and then they're all sitting on wires, and then removed. And then there's a wire going through the cotton itself.
Right. Okay.
And then I did a few passes to try to get even lighting on the cotton. So I would just hold another one of the puck lights around. This was before I had any loom cubes and stuff like that. I only had these puck lights and the lights in my garage. And
it came out great.
Fun.
This is fantastic.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's really,
this is still one of my favorite ones, actually.
Yeah, it really is great. It's a great shot, and she's looking right at it too. And that
the eyes are the most important part of anything, really. So or any presentation of something. So I always try to make sure that I get the facial expressions, the connection of characters in their posing.
Super important
compared to any other part of the posing.
That's so cool. Awesome. Yeah. There's some really freaking great insight that you're giving.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Thanks, Mile High Plastic Guy, for the great question. So speaking of lighting, Project 25, and so this might be different for everything, but how do you work with your lighting?
I always start with a big softbox up and to the right usually, or on either side, depending on what kind of shot I'm doing. And I'll start that kind of low. And I'll know based on just my plan for the shot where I want to have, or how much blur in the background I want to have. So I'll start with my aperture settings just to get that where I want, and then I'll adjust my shutter speed accordingly.
Gotcha.
And then I'll build up from there. And that's what I do in CG as well, is I always start with maybe just a single directional light, whether that light's going to be strong or not, because the directional light in CG is one that has no source. It's basically like a sunlight. It's always infinite away, and all the lines are completely parallel. And so I'll almost always start my lighting with just a single directional light, and in this case a big softbox up high, and build from there just to get and that's usually my key light. And then I'll get some fill light and some edge lighting with my little loom cubes and stuff. And I keep saying loom cube to be easy. I've got like bootleg stuff from Amazon. They're not loom cubes, but they're like the knockoff ones.
Right.
I don't know what they're called, so I'm just gonna keep calling them loom cubes. But then I'll start kind of coming in with those, with if I want filters on them, if I want to put barn doors on them, depending on the shot, I'll build it out from there. But always one light at a time. So I'll get it exactly like I want it, trying to imagine what the full scene will look like, but just one at a time, so that I'm always adding to it, not having to go back. And I do go back once I get everything set up. I'll adjust the different lights and things. And then I almost always do a pass where I go in with some light painting and then just take different shots from different angles, get edge lighting exactly where I want it, and Photoshop it all together.
Awesome. Yeah, that's really important. That's awesome. That's so cool. And I like the fact that you'll start out with like one directional kind of lighting, and that's usually creates I think it's just some dynamic drama and stuff. So that's awesome.
And I love doing lighting. I don't know if diegetic is the right word. I only know diegetic as in relation to sound. I don't know if that works for lighting, but the idea of diegetic in sound is if you're watching a movie and there's a band playing music, that's diegetic. It's actually playing. It's not a soundtrack. It's actually playing in the world. So somebody may correct me because I don't know if this can be applied to lighting, but I try to make diegetic lighting. I love to have things where there is a light in the shot, like that last one we looked at. The light of the bullet bill was illuminating
I see what you mean.
tails. I love having things that are in the scene specifically casting lights
I
on
like
things.
that. I like
And
that
I
a
don't,
lot.
like I said, I don't know if that's called diegetic in lighting. I don't know if that applies, but it's kind of like if that doesn't apply, it's the equivalent of diegetic sound.
Yeah, I like that. It makes everything in the photo that might be emitting light feel more real and just like add to the whole, just like life like feeling of the scene, that story
Yeah,
or
most
whatever.
definitely.
Yeah, I
And
like
that's
that
one
a
of the things
lot.
that's really unique about toy photography is, uh, in CG I could do that, but I think it's less impressive. If I fit a light into a set in real life toy photography, that's more important. It's more impressive than when I place it in CG. If I'm able to merge it creatively into the set, that's a whole physical different skill that I think is a lot more impressive than if I do it in CG.
Yeah, I like that. I think that's really cool. And I don't think I actively think about that when I do photos, but now I think I will because it just I like that a lot.
Yeah,
So Project 25. Thanks so much. That's a great question.
yeah, thank you.
Lighting's important. So this is from Comic Dad, who's right here in the live chat. It says
Hmm.
Comic Dad 42 shot says, do you prefer indoor or outdoor?
I definitely prefer indoor. I've got a mix on my page, but indoor is definitely my favorite because I have so much control over it. I love sunrise shots and things, but you have to get up so early for that, and I don't have a lot of good places near me for taking shots. I'm in a place where I can't do fireworks and things for fire hazards. It almost never rains where I am, so it's kind of like, oh yeah, this one that I really like. This one, it happens to be outside. This is another one actually to take a step back with diegetic lighting because the scene that I'm kind of taking this from, it's inspired by the first scene in, or the first battle scene in Mighty Morphin Power Rangers movie, and they were in a construction zone that had
Yeah.
a lot of lights like this. Now Ivan Ooze wasn't in that shot; they were fighting his minions, but that's what inspired this shot. So I actually just took my loom cubes on tripods, just put them on the edges so that they were diegetic lighting.
And it works. It works
Now,
great.
one of the things that I love about outdoor photography, though, is one of the things that's kind of a hallmark of your style is all the cool splashes and dirt blasts and things. Those are really fun to do that I can't really do as much in my
Right.
garage. And so I do love that. But if I had to choose between the two, definitely indoor because I do so much set building work and I like to have so much control over the lighting.
So much more control. Stuff like, yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, there's when you're outside there are just so many things out of your control.
Yeah,
Including
definitely.
the lighting and the wind and
Yeah.
other people that might be
With the
out
wind
there.
blowing things around, getting to like just a slight amount of motion blur on a suspended character because they're moving and you don't notice until you actually edit the shot, things like that.
Yeah, so much. And Mile High Plastic Guy just throws a quick question in the chat. He says, Stegosaurus, where are you located, if you don't mind me asking? Somewhere in California. I know that, right?
Yeah, Southern California.
Sunny SoCal.
Hmm. Rained the last few days, but that's probably all we'll see for some time.
I have heard that it has been raining a lot over there.
Hmm.
All right. Well, Comic Dad, thanks
Yeah,
for that
thank you.
question. And I know he's got another one. Um, another question in here. Oops, hang on. Whoopsie. There we go. Comic Dad says, "What's your favorite figure to shoot?"
Ooh, I've, I think I have it right here. This custom here, it's one of the ones that I just put so much work into, and it was such a positive thing with the collaboration and the fact that it's a model that I painted myself and did customization. These are beads from Michaels. This is 3D printed from somewhere online. Apologies, I don't have the actual artist for it. Painting the R was actually really tough. That was hand painted, but trying to get all those straight lines is really tough. I don't know what these fabric things were in the original concept art, but he put them in there. It's like fabric just wrapped around his wrist. This is just dental floss that I painted with
Nice.
a wash. And so I've only done a couple shots with him, but yeah, I definitely think that this is probably my favorite figure to shoot. Not only because of me working on it, but also the whole World of Halo Jazzwares line is so posable, and they just lock their joints really nicely. Well, not when I hold it with all the weight like this, but they'll keep their shape really nicely. So the functionality of the toys, that whole toy line, combined with the fact that I customized this and had such a positive experience working with it, is definitely my favorite figure to shoot.
Awesome. Yeah, there's always like this. The figure becomes that much more special when you have some type of, I don't know, story that you've experienced with with the figure. So, absolutely.
And that character in the background here, this was a fun one. If you're familiar with Halo, there's these things called the Flood. They're like these zombie-like creatures, and they come in a few different forms. And then if you're familiar with Pokemon, there's a Pokemon called Wheezing. It's like a gas spewing Pokemon that floats. So I combined the two. I made this kind of an amalgamation of the two, and the Flood kind of is like zombies that infect people. So I 3D scanned my face and actually put my face like coming out as one of the faces on this Wheezing. In fact, there's probably an image of like a ZBrush turnaround that you can actually see my face just a few down. Let's see. It's probably a couple more scrolls down from here.
This one?
Yeah, there it is. Yeah. So you can.
There you are.
You can actually see the 3D scan of my face from within it, and I think I'm smiling in the scan. So technically the figure is smiling, but then I 3D printed that, painted it, and it's sitting on the shelf back there where I normally store this guy.
Shaped like Wheezing. That's so cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right. Thanks, Comic Dad, for the multiple great questions. Next one is from Stubbs Toy Box.
No.
Pineapple on pizza, yes or
no? No. I'm sorry for those who do like it, but not for me.
Have you ever had it before?
I have, yeah. I love pineapple separately. I'll eat pineapple on its own, but something about the two just doesn't work for me.
I've only had it once. I had a
pepperoni guy.
Jalapeno pineapple, and it was pretty good. But yeah, I don't really have any reason to. I mean, I would rather just get something better. But it's not bad. If someone was getting it and they had it, I'd be like, yeah, sure. I've never had it with ham, though. I know that's like the main thing.
I like ham, Canadian bacon. Yeah, I like a lot of meats on my pizzas. Yeah,
me too. All right, Stubbs. It's a great question. I feel like Stubbs asked that once before. I'm not sure, but it's a great question.
Thank you.
I like the sprinkle of totally off-topic questions in the mix.
Yep.
So another one from JCT. I think this one might be for me. JCT Toy Photography says, "Are we going to be doing a shot of the month?" So JCT, if you're talking about the monthly challenges, yes, definitely. If you want to join and be a part of it, my first pinned photo on my Instagram, all the information's right there, or just go to the community tab on YouTube. It's all right there. So if that's what you were talking about, but thanks for sending it in, JCT. And so Action Photography says, when did you first started with action figures? So even this could even go before toy photography, just figures in general.
Yeah, as a kid, I always had pretty cool action figures. I had like some Ninja Turtle stuff, a lot of Power Rangers toys, a lot of Star Wars toys, all those things. I still have a lot of them. In fact, that Ivan Ooze in that other shot, that was all the way back from
is it really?
90 something whenever the movie came out. I want to say 97 or something. He's like a bendy action figure. The two Power Rangers in that shot were the modern Lightning Collection ones.
Right.
But and there's a Zord on my page somewhere a few months ago, a Dragon Zord. That was the original toy. Yeah.
Oh, that's the original.
That one I shot in a lake. It's missing some pieces too, and stickers are coming off. I had to Photoshop some of the stickers because they were kind of peeling and wouldn't stick back. And that was a fun one. I just stuck it in the lake and got great. Some nice reflections and things.
I'm trying to find it.
I guess you could, if we count things that I've shot, technically I started when I was collecting them when I was a kid. If we count the fact that I'm shooting these now, but when I as I got older, I had a lot of toys on my desk. I like the little, I don't even know, I think they're Fisher Price toys of Marvel characters. I don't know if they're Fisher Price. They're kind of like the chibi looking characters that have a little bit of articulation. I have a bunch of Power Rangers ones of those, a bunch of the Avengers team that I had a whole collection on my desk because my first job was in turning movies into 3D. So we would take a flat image, somebody would cut everything out frame by frame, and then we'd create a map of black to white that represented how close it was to the camera. Then our software would split it into two eyes for the 3D. So I worked on like Captain America,
Cool.
Titanic, Avengers, and during the whole time I was doing Avengers, that's when I had the Avengers full set of the characters of these Fisher Price ones.
That's so cool.
And then for a lot of years, for a lot of years I didn't buy too many toys because I was like, my desk is too cluttered to keep it nicer. But now I got my excuse to buy again.
Were you? I'm assuming you were a '90s kid, like a lot of those figures.
Yeah,
you're just going through all things I was also into in the '90s.
Yeah, I was born in '89. For some reason, today was the first day I realized that YouTube calls me Stegosaurus 96, which might suggest that I'm 20 something, 27 or something. But yeah, I was born in '89. I think it's just like they recently changed name systems on YouTube, and I think it assigned me a random number.
Right. Yeah.
So I'm older than what my YouTube handle seems to suggest. but 96 is not the year I was born.
Still a 90s kid.
Yeah.
All right. Let's see who we got next. Thanks, Action Photography, Ben, who's right here in the live chat.
Thank you.
So, Yellow Man Studios says, "What's your favorite theme to shoot?" So this could mean, I'm gonna say, just answer this however you think best, because theme could mean a lot of things. So.
Yeah, and the first thing that came to mind when I read theme was genre, so I'll answer it that way. Sonic toys. I love Sonic. I love the surface of the Jazzwares toys. They're this kind of soft plastic. They're a little fragile. I've been breaking a lot of the joints on them lately.
Yeah.
If I'm too rough with them, but I love the style of them. I love the way that trying to get the lighting good on them is actually a challenge, because if I have mostly just point lights, or like, that's the term in CG, I get, or more like spotlights, but not a whole lot of softbox stuff. I only have mainly the one softbox, so it's actually really tough to get good lighting on them, because you'll see in their reflections a very hard light. If you want a more round fall off, I have to do a lot of passes or move my softbox around. Excuse me. And I love Sonic. I love their toy line, and I love making the dioramas for them. I've got one coming up soon where I made a huge diorama of Perfect Chaos. In Sonic Adventure, there's a cutscene where they see a diorama of the main big bad guy. So I carved that all out. It's like a bas relief or bas relief, I don't know how to pronounce it. It was a sculpture on the wall that I did in foam. And it's set up in the garage right now. I've got a lot of tweaks to make to the shot, but it's probably going to be my next shot that I do.
Sweet.
And so I'm really looking forward to that. It was a really hard figure to find. I've been looking for it forever, and my wife got it for me for Christmas. And so ever since then, I've been dying to shoot it. And I love, a lot of my Sonic shots I try to keep kind of in the same style. Like this Sonic one is kind of in the same style as that Tails one. I like to kind of have all my Sonic ones as a specific type of shot. It's a lot different than my Halo ones, because my Halo ones I can get away with a lot of dirty lighting and smoke effects and things, but the Sonic ones tend to be cleaner, and I love the final look of them.
I just want to say this shot is really cool. There's a lot of things I really like about. So the running pose, first of all, is just like you've got the perfect mix of him like partially in the air and like one foot is kind of pointed. Like it's a really great mid in the middle of, because when you're running, like doing a running pose, it's easy to like, I don't know, but this is like, I think that's perfect.
It's easy to make it feel too static. I think that's one of the things I struggle with. It's trying to get the motion in that pose. Especially as an animator, I can rely on, I think I know, a little bit about posing from my time animating, but when you're actually animating, you're relying on the motion to deliver that. And ideally, when you're animating, every single one of your frames should be able to be seen as a still image and feel the action. but that doesn't always happen. And so you can rely in animation of having the animation deliver that. When it's a still photograph with a pose, you have to try to hit it in that one
Right.
image, and that's certainly a challenge.
Well, I mean, the pose on this shot is definitely selling that, and I love the just like the placement of like the camera, like how you're right there on the dock, and also the placement of Sonic, how he's a little off center, so the whale is, but it's just like everything is just so well placed, and everything is just this is a really great shot. I really like this shot a lot. And,
I spend a lot of time on composition, trying to. I mean, anybody should. Yeah, everybody does. But what the things I try to figure out, what lines, like all those, the composition here, all the lines of the wood were specifically modeled in the set to bring the eye towards Sonic, and then the curve of I actually specifically bent the whale with a heat gun to make that fin curve in toward him. It was more straight before. So I actually specifically bent that so that the eye kind of travels along that fin, up to the ears, down through the face of Sonic, down through his arm, and always have space, just the right amount of space. Like on the screen left arm here, left a little bit of space between the wood there. That was actually done in Photoshop. I didn't notice it in camera. That piece of wood that's over to the left was contacting his hand. I was like, oh man. So I shifted the whole thing over and then photoshopped in a little bit of the corner that I didn't have, and just to give it more space.
Nice.
So really focusing on keeping the elements separated and keeping the eye moving around the image.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Yeah, everything about this is a really freaking great shot.
Thank you.
All right, so we got one more question. And this is actually a really cool question. It's from Dr. Awesome. He always comes up with really out of the box kind of stuff. So if there was one product you could invent to help you with your toy photography, what would it be?
Yeah, this ties in specifically with CG. In CG, I can make any number of lights. I can place them without gravity. They just stay there. With toy photography, I have to figure out a place to put the tripod. If I'm using a bunch of lights, I try to keep it to as little lights as possible. Sometimes I'm using like 5 lights in the scene, and just to get specifically what I want. But each one of those needs some place to place them, and I have to set up a tripod, and I'm tripping over it if I'm trying to move around in the garage. If I could invent some kind of tool like some kind of anti-gravity thing to hold up the light in a single position, just like I would have it in CG, that would be awesome. Fantastic.
Yeah, that
totally unfeasible. Cool. Like that won't exist, or maybe in the future, anti-gravity stuff. I don't know, but that would be the theoretical invention I would love to have to bring things a little bit closer to the ease that I have in CG lighting.
The one thing that I think of with this is like, the one thing that always makes a shot easier is having a second set of hands. And like, can you imagine just being able to have just like a robot that can just like listen to you. That's and right, you tell them what to do. Hold this there, hold that there. Can you just pour this and whatever? And they just do it. So it's like a second pair of hands, and I don't have to bother somebody to get me to help me. So that's it right
very
there.
much like in CG, because you can pose your character, make them float in the air without having to add any supports. If you have a water simulation, you just pause it at that part of the water simulation. Like, that's a lot of the benefits of doing stuff in CG. If we're doing like an analog to toy photography in CG, you can just have things stay where they need to be and have that kind of control.
Yeah, that'd be so cool. Well, that's such a great question, Dr. Awesome. Great.
Yeah,
always putting awesome questions in. Well, all right, man. Well, thanks so much for coming on. This was amazing.
Thanks for having me.
There's so many things that I never knew anything about that I am, slightly decently more educated on, knowing. After talking to you, now I just know all these things I didn't know existed. Now they know.
Yeah, it's a lot of different things that are either tangentially or directly related to toy photography in surprising ways that I didn't even expect until I got into it. And it was, it's a lot of fun to try to apply those things here. Like somebody else mentioned about collaboration, happy to do collabs where maybe if you do the photography, I do the graphics, things like that. That would be a lot of fun. So definitely reach out, anybody who's interested. The person who asked mentioned channel size. I don't care about the channel size. I'm a small channel myself. So
cool.
Yeah, I would definitely love to do that.
And also too, my lesson moral from this stream is just like there are just unlimited ways to approach the product. Like for instance, like a toy photo. There are so many different ways to approach that, and you just have just shown and demonstrated so many new ways to approaching that I never even thought of before. So it's just so cool. Everyone has so many different approaches to getting the results, and
Yeah, it kind of works the opposite
really
way too. Because I've relied so much on certain things in my time of doing CG and things. We've talked a lot about just letting lights float wherever they need to be, all these cheats and things that I had to reach out, do research on people's videos, your videos, a few other videos, and really learn how to do these things, and asking my wife questions and things. It's so many things that I didn't know myself from this other world that it's fun to kind of merge them all together.
That's great, because that's exactly the way I'm feeling right now. So
Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, thank you again. And do you have anything you want to plug or anything before?
We plugged everything. Like Garver Photography. If you haven't checked that out yet, that's my wife. She taught me everything I know photography wise, and she has a great channel, and she's working to get more toy photography up there in between her normal photography job.
I can't wait to follow her. I can't wait. I'm glad you let us all know.
Yeah, awesome.
All right, well, have a great night, dude. And everyone, make sure you're following Corey at Stegosaurus Rex on Instagram. So thank you everyone for watching and being here in the chat and throwing out some great stuff in there and great questions and everything. So everyone have a great night, and see you guys later on.
Have a good one.